Hi guys, Justin here from North 40 Survival. I thought I'd do a quick video for you guys on everybody's favorite subject, paracord. Now, there seems to be a lot of confusion on the web about paracord, and in specific, military spec paracord. This right here, what I've got is a chunk of black paracord that I bought online. I actually did a bit of research and looked for a bit before I actually found some that was a true military spec paracord. So today I'm going to be showing you a little bit about how you can identify military spec paracord, and then we're going to talk a little bit about, does it even really matter whether it is military spec? So what is military spec paracord? It is a paracord produced for the military by certain government contract manufacturers to a certain specification. I don't have the exact number here, but it is a 7-strand inner core with 3 yarns per strand, and it also has a color-coded yarn in one of those strands to identify it as military spec. So if you zoom in here on the piece that I've got, you'll see that it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 strands, and then you'll see that it also has 3 yarns per strand. And then you can also see the yellow and black stripe in one of the yarns, or one of the strands rather, that identifies it as being military spec. Now, a lot of stuff on the web in particular, and even in some stores that I've been to, unfortunately, truth in advertising is a fickle thing. There's lots of companies that advertise their product as military spec just because it has 7-strand core, but oftentimes those strands will only contain 2 yarns and it won't have the color identified stripe. And then you'll also find the cheaper variations that don't even have 7 cores. They'll have 4, 5, 6 cores. They'll still advertise it as 550 paracord. It's become a bit of a brand recognition type of thing, like calling a plastic bandage a Band-Aid or a tissue paper a Kleenex. Everybody labels it as 550 paracord. The 550 designation is actually its tensile breaking strength in the military spec stuff. Now, in the end, for your end usage, does it even really matter if it is military spec or not? The answer is probably not. Depending on what you're going to be using this for, it is plenty strong enough, even if it is not mil spec, to do most of your things. If you're using it for decoration purposes, like weaving a handle wrap or something like that, it makes no difference. If you're going to be actually using this stuff to bear a decent load, I'm going to get into that in a minute. But for most applications, any kind of paracord you buy is going to be plenty strong enough to do whatever you're asking it to do. Are you going to be able to rappel down a cliff with this stuff? No. You have to remember that the 550-pound rating on this is its tensile strength. Tensile strength is its breaking strength. That is the point at which this line will fail, and you should never ever be loading a piece of cordage to its failing point. There's a designation for cordage when being used called the WLL, working load limit. And the working load limit of most cordage and ropes, etc., is about 25% of its tensile or breaking strength. And you never want to exceed that to be safe. Anytime the piece of rope or cordage is being used where human safety is concerned, most workplace health and safety regulations that I'm aware of designates that the working load limit of that cordage or rope is about 10% of its tensile strength. So, for example, a 550 paracord, if it is truly rated at 550-pound tensile strength, it has a working load limit of about 55 pounds when you're using it for anything that would be considered a safety risk to a person. Just to give you a bit of an idea of what kind of stresses can be put on a cordage or line when you're using it yourself, industry standard for rating loads on safety line equipment is that a 220-pound person falling approximately 3 feet will generate a force at the end of that fall of about 2,700 pounds. So when you're using any type of cordage or rope where your personal safety is at risk, make sure that you're using adequate rope or adequate line to take that kind of a load. And that applies to anything that would be putting more than a static load on the line. A static load is a line or a weight that does not move. A dynamic load is when something produces kinetic energy from something falling or moving, anything that's in motion. So for example, if you're using paracord to make a trap, for example, if there's going to be any kind of a weight landing on that cord, you have to take that into consideration. 550 pound, at first glance you'd think, wow, that would easily hold a 40-pound animal. Well, if that 40-pound animal is thrashing around and jumping and lunging and hitting the end of that rope hard, there's a tremendous amount of force being applied to that. So forget trying to rappel down a cliff with your backpack on using a single strand of paracord. Or if you do, make sure that I'm in your will so I get everything when you die. Just joking, don't do that actually. Disclaimer. So, what about the commercial variations of paracord? Well, there are some that are nylon, which is the military spec is made of. There are some that are polyester. Polyester is generally rated at about the same as nylon for tensile strength, or maybe slightly higher depending on how it's made, the type of weave that's used, etc. And then there are some that are just junk. I found one in I don't have it right here now, but I found one in a store that was extremely thin, and you could tell just by feeling it was pretty weak. And it was still rated, sold as 550 paracord, but again, that was just, everybody labels it as 550 even though it's not sometimes. And then of course there's also the other variations of paracord, which are like the 350 and the 225 or something like that. You can also get military spec paracord in a 650 pound version, which has 11 strands on the inner core with 3 yarns per strand again. Well, hopefully that clears up some issues about 550 paracord and answers some of your guys' questions about whether or not a cord is military spec or whether you should be using a military spec. As always, if you like this video and you want to see more from North 40 Survival, please comment, rate, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.